actually move forward to precision medicine. We've got sort of 4 larger segments here. Well, no, actually 3, because the rest of them are smaller. So precision medicine, we went to a few of these today, and we talked a little bit about this yesterday, but just to bring everyone up to speed, and it really has become much more obvious to me today, even being in these sessions, there is such a difference between the terms precision medicine and personalized medicine. It is becoming so obvious to me now, just from being at this particular ACR. Personal, even though that you will see still that the terms are interchangeable. So I know that can be confusing. I mean, we're even the only arthritis organization on the Personalized Medicine Coalition, which is really a public policy organization. We've been on it for a couple of years because we've known that precision medicine was coming, but it's called Personalized, and I want to say change the name. So anyway, personalized is more about each individual's choice of what type of medication might work for you. And it might not even be medication, just therapeutics in general. It could be exercise, diet. It's a personalized experience on what your best decisions are for your healthcare journey. But precision medicine is really about the science and getting down to molecules and cells and blood work, and really targeting what's happening inside our immune systems, and then manipulating that with therapies. And those therapies then are precise to individual people and subgroups of diseases. So that's where we're moving. And boy, are we moving there. Every session I think I've gone to, even ones that normally I would go, oh, wow, I think this is going to be teaching me just a little bit about our diseases. For example, went into one today called, I have it in front of me, looking at the wrong screen. I went in it was called, where is it at? It was, oh, here it is, Evolving Pathobiology and AXPA and PSA, which is axial spondyloarthritis and psoriatic arthritis. And that even itself, it was an industry led by UCB. Holla, we love UCB. And they support many of our programs. And if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't be able to do a lot of the programs that we do. So we got to holler out to them. But it specifically was talking about all of these new pipelines, all of these new targets that they're looking for to change the paradigm. One of the things that I thought was really interesting is they were talking about psoriatic arthritis in particular. A lot of the treatments that are out right now, you just can't get more than like 40% efficacy along the board. And I don't think that really is that unique to psoriatic arthritis. I think a lot of us see that 60-40 ratio, where 60% of the population don't really respond to our diseases, or our diseases, or the therapies. Like, that's why one person will try one and say it's great, and the other one's like, didn't work, and why we need to go here. But, and I'll cite a couple of the resources they put. But the point is that it was so pronounced, and we in the past have seen some research presented, and Deb and I in particular, she's been my partner in crime going these conferences for several years, and it hasn't said precision medicine, but we knew it was, because it was talking about biomarkers. It was talking about different blood levels, different like, even when you think of one that's common that people know about, the RA factor, RA positive, or RA, that's a biomarker. That's measuring a level of disease. And so we started seeing more research into those. So we recognized that as precision medicine. But now it not only is it in the title, but when you go to these, I don't even know how to, Deb and Katie know. I mean, we went in there, and I mean, skill level, conversation level up here. Every other word was something you would likely look up in a dictionary, and they were all doctors having conversations about these topics and brainstorming together, which I thought was fascinating to be able to like be a fly on that wall, right? But I have to admit, I'm a fast typer. So I usually am sitting there and I'll capture a lot, and Deb's taking pictures. And I realized after the first 5 minutes in each one of them, that wasn't possible. There was no way that I was going to, because I'd have to look up what every word meant. But what I was able to do is sit back, listen, and capture the themes, capture the main points of what they're trying to say, what they're discussing, and what it relates to us as people living with the diseases and what we should know is happening. So that's what I've done for you. So I will actually write this out and make it more available in an educational takeaway form for everybody. So I don't want to spend like 15 minutes doing a lecture on it, but I will be happy to do a separate one if people think that it would be helpful. But essentially, I'm gonna pull up my document here, and that's why I'm looking over here. One of the things that, well, there's a lot of talk in lupus, so I should say that too. We have seen in the past several of the studies in rheumatoid arthritis, and that is often because of things like the the RA factor. That's a known that it's easier to study. It was there. It's something that they could see if you have positive, the disease activity is more aggressive, those type of things. So that's where it sort of started, and now we see a lot of this study in lupus, and my guess is because lupus is extremely complex and involves more organs usually. So they're trying to figure out, and these things that I went to today was, okay, we have all of these different cells, we have all of this molecular structure that's happening in our bodies. And we know what our immune system is capable of. Our immune system is filled with all of these proteins, okay? And so let's say, like, use the alphabets. You've got letter A, you've got letter B, you've got letter C. So all of these are like labeled onto one of these proteins. And the proteins live in different sides of our immune system. So we have the innate immune system, and that's what we're born with. So the innate system will fight off viruses, bacteria, fungus, stuff like that. And then the adapted side is like a learned response. And so autoimmune is typically categorized as that side of the system. It's adapted. There's an environmental trigger that has triggered a response, and your body is reacting to something. So it's not a natural, necessarily innate response. And so what they're finding, and Deb, this is going to stand out to you because I think it was your 2018, and the first time it was a lupus session, and they started saying, we think that the innate and the adaptive side are connected. And we went, what? Because we always heard lupus as autoimmune, adapted, and autoinflammatory diseases like Still's disease, for example, innate. But doesn't it make sense that our immune system, I mean, it's in our body, right? Doesn't it make sense? They kind of cross wires here and there. So so that's the gist of a lot of the conversation. But what was important to note is they were brainstorming. So while there are some studies in progress now that are targeting these different proteins, different than they're targeting now. Like we hear TNF inhibitor, we've heard IL-6 or IL-23, or those are different mechanisms that they're blocking. It's the same philosophy, but now what they're doing is they're saying, if I add something to this protein to activate it, we know in this subgroup, they respond differently than in this subgroup. So it's at that, like there's light bulbs happening. But you hear the doctors and they're saying, well, if we test, we could pull this, we could inhibit this certain protein, and we're seeing a response in some systemic lupus patients, they're not having worse disease. So it's these sort of aha moments that I'm going to call them. And they were saying that they feel it's their onus, essentially, to test these out. So at the same time, I'm going into industry or pharmaceutical company sessions, and you can see the different proteins, the different things that they're testing. So it's all happening from different areas, and that's why we, as a very important stakeholder group, also need to understand what's happening so that we can start to plan and think about, okay, number one, how would we like to have these treatments that are precision but personalized, I guess, to our unique needs. But there are going to be times in the near future that there's going to be calls to participate in clinical trials. It's the only way to get these drugs to market. So those are conversations you'll want to have with your doctor. There would be different benefits than the clinical trials now, because the clinical trials now only recruit a generalized patient population, very generalized. You usually have to have certain levels of inflammation. You usually can't have comorbidities. Oh, gee, I wonder why only 40% of people respond, right?
Yeah,
So
it's funny you say that, because I've seen clinical trials where they're recruiting RA patients, and if you've been on a biologic before, you're out.
Yeah.
they want biologic naive.
Right. Or methotrexate.
Exactly.
Too. Yep.
Or
Yes.
methotrexate too.
But that's what they consider, like that's their general population. How realistic is that? How many of us have not been on a biologic? How many of us are biologic naive? You know, so that's why these precision medicine trials are going to be so very important. So and by the way, our organization does have a project preparing patients for precision medicine clinical trials, which is why I know a lot about this as well. And we are going to have more lessons on that coming up. But one of the sessions also that I just want to, now that you've got sort of a summary of where the research is, and it's early enough, but still, also as a side note, precision medicine trials theoretically should not take as long as the other clinical trials that we know today. So if you kind of think of this COVID trials, they went real fast. There's an opportunity here to get treatments to patients faster. So there's less people that would be in these trials, even though they do need to recruit a large enough for it to matter, which we referenced yesterday. You need to have it analyzed so it is statistically significant. Okay. Mm-hmm. The one that I want to also, that was wow. I started taking notes and said, never mind, that I sat back and listened. And then what I did is I went to I have an immunology textbook that I won from UR. Yeah. And went in there and I went on some sites and I did my research. I did my homework. So while I was eating lunch, that's what I was doing, because I wanted to make more sense of this session so I could report back. And it was called New Strategies to Target Complement Pathways. And that's complement, not, you look nice today, but complement with an E, not an I. And what this talked about, and again, I'm going to create a full education takeaway from this. So I'm going to be very brief on it. But essentially what it was talking about is our bodies, our immune system has a complement system. And it's essentially, and the number they used today was over 30 proteins, although I have seen it cited at the NIH and when I did my homework today differently, but I'm going to use what was in the session today. Over 30 proteins, and they work within your body to protect the pathogens. And what pathogens are essentially, they help to fight bacteria, virus, fungus, which I was talking to you about earlier. So your complement system, it has all of these proteins and they're working. It used to be thought it was just that innate system, but recent research has shown, surprise, surprise, and this was focusing on lupus a lot, that it also has something to do with the adaptive. So when I looked up research from 2012, I was seeing it only listed as innate. And then I did see more recent, 2018, 2019, saying, aha, it also is the adaptive. That's important for us as patients to know too, because if you're hearing, oh, I have an immune disease, it's really all environmental. It's all because of this. There are other things in our bodies working, okay, along with this. And what the complement, it has 3 different pathways. Don't need to know what they're called. Doesn't matter. Just know that there's 3 different pathways, and each of those pathways have different of those proteins that fall in them. So one of them has a lot of the letter C. Okay, and then there's been a lot of focus on C5 in particular. So there's a lot of testing on, if I block C5, look what happens. A lot of these lupus patients are not having as much disease activity. Why? So we're still in sort of that Y phase. But this complement system, it needs to be activated to it doesn't. So don't think, oh, this is, it's going to go haywire. Although they are concerned when they're testing these. They want to make sure that doesn't happen. You don't have an immune response where you are triggered unnecessarily, because it doesn't, your body isn't triggering that system unless there's a reason, unless there's something happening, a virus, a medication, something's causing it to. As far as targeting the treatments, we have, looking at this here, the complement to activate it. They're saying that they're looking at these different pathways. Do we block C3? Do we block C5? What will happen? Do we block the receptors of these proteins? So this was the conversation they were having, excuse me. And I'm going to share my screen here. Let me pull this up. So I want to show you the treatment. So these are all of the different drugs, treatments, pharmaceutical products that are in clinical development targeting these different pathways in this complement portion of our immune system. So you can see that there's a lot, and these are the different, if you look over here in the bottom left, these are the different mechanisms of action. These are the different ways. So you see biologic, we are all a lot familiar with your traditional biologics, small molecule. So that's going to be like a DMARD, a methotrexate, a pill form, a JAK inhibitor. So that's what the manufactured small molecule means. And then you just see all of these other targets, the antibody, the peptide. And they also said a lot of what's happening with COVID and what they've learned with COVID is starting to be translated into these treatments, because they're seeing a lot of these parts of our immune system that have been activated. So COVID has, in a weird way, opened the door to looking at responses that could happen in our specific treatment plans. So I'm gonna stop for a minute, because I've said a lot of information, and ask if you all that are watching have any questions.
I feel like I'm in my biochemistry class all over again, right, from 15 years ago.
Is it like bad?
No. But what I actually, going back to that one picture, can you go back again? Sorry. Yeah, looking at the bottom part again, look at all the different things that they're looking at. Subcutaneous, so those are like injections. Intravenous, so those are the infusion versions. There's topical. I mean, some of these in
topical, you have to. They also were talking organs, and does include skin.
Yes.
So they were talking about the different. Also with precision medicine and working specifically on these different proteins of targeting, which ones greatly affect the skin, which ones affect brain fog, which ones affect, the different organs in your body, which ones affect the joints. So that in itself is fascinating.
Yeah, this is fascinating.
Yeah, this is a really cool infographic. I really like it.
Yeah, that's why, because again, there was a lot of whoa, but I thought that this one is one that as patients we could relate to and understand. And then the other one was this one. And so they did talk about future approaches, again, expanding the targets and indications, new modes of action, delivering different things that will inhibit these proteins in our body, and with the goal to minimize systemic
issues,
disease. But if you look here, this is what they're talking. So when we're saying the primary drivers of disease, so things that are targeting the eye inflammation, the heart, the kidney, the joints. So this whole body sort of targets. It was really fascinating. So I just wanted patients to know that this is happening. This is going to be the future of our treatments. And I personally, as somebody living with our diseases, are hugely excited about it.
Absolutely.
And I'm glad there's a silver lining for COVID. Like,
yeah,
it leads to more research.
It's being able to, what did it say? And now this might be kind of wordy, being able to use mRNA technology either for immune stimulation, stimulating your immune system, or immune tolerization, having your immune system tolerate something, could reopen the efforts in this specific type of immunotherapy. And that was in referring to the work that they're doing with COVID. So it's just fascinating. Yeah, and what we know that the rheumatology community has been just in a highlight since COVID, because COVID, it replicates our diseases so much in what it does. So again, I will do more on this, but this is what I was able to come up with in an hour. of just trying to, come up with an easy way to explain this. But I just think it's not something that patients shouldn't know about just because it's really advanced verbiage, and it's very, 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 very scientific. I think we need to have it broken down so that we know what the future holds for us.